Today's episode, we're upgrading my FiTech ECU, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to prevent electromagnetic interference with your fuel injection system. I don't care what brand you have. Let's go. Welcome back to FastMonty's Garage. I'm so excited. The reason is I haven't done an upgrade on my engine in 42 episodes. That's over a year. Since that time, we've been doing a ton of cosmetic work, mini tub the GTO, new Curry rear end, and a new skid plate to prevent damage to the oil pan. So if you don't have one, this is what it looks like, painted with Cerakote. Did a video on that too, but it protects all 64 through 72 GMA bodies. So check out my website, fastmontysgarage.com, or the links below. They will take you to SendCutSend, my favorite sheet metal fabricator, where you can order your own directly from them and they'll ship it to you. So moving forward, if you're new to the channel, you probably just got the gist. I do all this work on my 69 GTO, and I make mistakes. You guys get to learn faster. So if you haven't, subscribe. And as I alluded to earlier, we're upgrading the brain of my FiTech unit because mine is, well, older. And if you're here wondering, well, what are the symptoms, Mike? And by the way, how do I know if it's old or not? So let's start with the second point. The way you tell if you have an old unit or not is you have a separate fuse box or relay with the new systems. So if you don't have this, that means you have the old system. I have the old system, that's why I'm upgrading to the new one. Some other things that you may or may not be aware of. Electronics don't like heat, boys and girls. So over a prolonged exposure to heat, those components will fail first. And on older FiTech units, the relays are built into the board, and those are the first to go. So some symptoms might include, like you lost control of an injector, or you lost communication with all your injectors, or your prime shot's no longer working, or your fuel pump's no longer working. And in my case, my handheld stops working after about 20 minutes, which is bizarre because it works fine when the engine's cold. When it heats up, I lose signal. So that's what got me to this point. And if any of those symptoms are happening, or you want the latest and greatest software, which comes in the new one, you can order this directly from FiTech and upgrade your system. So we're going to go through that today and show you some EMI protection that you can use on any system, your old system, your new system. I don't care who makes the system. If it's a conversion system, you're going to want to prevent all electronic magnetic interference, because that will mess with the electronic communication too. Let's get going. Before we take the throttle body out, we actually have to go into the old handheld and record some settings, because the new computer comes with a new handheld. It's not compatible with your old handheld, and that makes it streamlined, so you have the newest handheld with the newest CPU. Let's jump in the car and start taking some recordings. All right, go ahead and get your handheld out, plug it in, key on your ignition so you can connect to the computer. I would actually go to tuning and spark map. This is most important for me. I have digitally controlled timing using the FiTech system, which is really neat. I did a video on this, go check it out. But you can use a CDI box or an MSD box as well. Well, it's actually optional, but you can go in here and take a picture of all these settings. Don't forget your fan setup. I always forget this one. So now that you take all those pictures of all your settings, now we can go rip out the throttle body and take it apart. Let's go. First things first, get under the car. You have to undo your O2 sensor. That is probably the biggest bitch of the problem. And then undo all your other sensors. And those of you with a keen eye notice that I have port injection. And don't worry, everything you see here, I did a video on if you're new to the channel. Painting intake manifolds, separating intake manifolds, AN lines for your cooling system, AN lines for fuel, everything you see here, even a full playlist on how to install the FiTech system, including fuel pumps and everything. So this video will be at the end of that playlist. Go check it out. I think it's that eye, either over there or over here, I don't know. Go check it out. But here we go. Let's take this thing off. Oh, so easy. And I remembered every wire. Highly recommend you guys get studs for your intake manifold. Okay, obvious differences off the bat. Different font. Yes, modern font, thank God. But here's number one. So blade fuses on the old system. So 3 blade fuses there. The new system has, like I said, the standalone fuse block, mini blades in there, and they're the relays that we talked about. So that's cool. Well, looks like only drawback is we got to find a place to mount this. We'll tackle that when we get to it. Let's see, what else? The plugs are the same. So there's fuel pump and everything else. So those are good. So our harness will still work. It'll be plug in. And next step is obviously we get to take this apart. I've never done this before, folks. Just like everything else on my channel, except painting. So this will be fun to learn, see what's inside. Guys, it just dawned on me that there's 5 of you on the planet that probably have port injection. So this first part isn't relative, right? But what you probably do have is this one. Yes, the throttle body injection. So first step, we need to remove the ends of either one, but we'll start with this one so you guys can get a good feel, because the rest of the planet has this one. Let's go. All right, driver's side, there are 2 3/16 of an inch socket head cap screws in here. Get your Allen. You can leave this fastener in here or just move your throttle and take that out. Bam. Now this should just slide up and out. So I'm coming at kind of a 45-degree angle. There we go. And the injectors may or may not stick in the housing. They may be stuck in here. One may get stuck, one may be in here. Doesn't matter, either way. You can remove them from the housing. Make sure you know which one comes from which port. I would rather just take the harness off of each one and then put it back in where it came from so you don't get confused. And at this point, it's always a good idea to video your work or take pictures. This is how you can start your own YouTube channel, so you can figure out where the wires go when you put it all back together, because when we're said and done, there's gonna be wires everywhere. Now we don't have to tackle the other side, because the other side are gonna be the same as my throttle body. So let's jump to my throttle body and take that fully apart. Passenger side on mine. There we go. And you can start removing some wires here. So this is a throttle position sensor. You can unclip that one and follow one of these wires back. It goes over here. And this is the idle air motor, I believe I call that. Unplug this one. And luckily you can't get confused on connectors. They are unique. Can't mess it up. All right, before we take that ECU off, I'm just taking a mental note that these 2 wires out the bottom left are basically the fan control, I think, and water temp. These are the old power wires with all the fuses on them. So go ahead and grab your 9/64 Allen key and go to work. All right. Last bolt. See what it looks like when you open it up. Jammed. All right, let's see if it needs some motivation here. There we go. Yeah, it'll pry it up a little bit. All right, let's see. There we go. As you can tell, there's still some wires connected. There's a ground wire here, so we're going to take that off. Let's see if that's the same size. All right, it is. All right, got the ground off, and this is the intake air temperature. So let's unplug this bad boy. All right, got that one undone. And we are free. With your kit, you're gonna have this little bag of stuff. So there is an intake air temp sensor we have to change out, which is that guy right there. So let's get that going. This happens to be a 12mm wrench. I'll get to work here. So before, after, obviously there's the harness plugs right into the board. And I noticed there's some thread sealant on there, but not on the new one. There is some left over in the hole, but as an abundance of caution here, I'm gonna use this stuff. This is thread sealant I usually use on connections that might require a ground, because you don't want to use tape. So you can spread that on. There we go. And tighten that down. All right, comparison time. The old one on my left. As you can see, it has the relays in there. Looks like an exposed controller chip, etc., etc. But on the new one, there are no control chips that are exposed to the elements. There are no relays. So that is in itself an improvement. And it stands further away. Do you see that? So there is a depth difference. And depending on the model, you might need an adapter for the map sensor. Let me show you what that looks like. So back in the bag of tricks, there's a little brass fitting with some seals. That is the adapter for the map sensor. Now the throttle body, there's the seal that was originally there. Now the big question for me is going to be, do we need this seal or do we use this seal? So we're going to do a test fit. This is kind of loosely hanging in there. But on the ECU side, that same fitting, it sticks right on there. So I'm going to try this test fit first. So I'm going to take this one off, the old one out, put that aside. Let's see if we can get this to fit, and then maybe we can look underneath and see the fitting. There we go, looks like it fits. Now I'm going to take it apart again because I didn't connect the connectors or the ground. Change of plans. That's the original one. Fits nice and snug in that bore. Here's the new one. It does not fit snug. It's actually quite loose, and I think they're different diameter. I'm going to use the old one because it fits snug. And then here's the new brass adapter with the new gasket on the other end. So this is the one I put on the board, and now it fits perfectly in there like that. So that is my plan. Now the plug for the intake air temperature is right down in there. So we got to get in there without disturbing our situation. So why don't I just go make a management call, put it right there. There we go, we're in. Now we have to reattach our ground. All right, nice and snug. Now the fun begins. Make sure that gasket's in there. Time to start wrestling. Man, wrestling is no joke. So what I did was, I'm not fully tightened yet, but as I get tighter, I kept checking the fitting of the wires. If I can move the wires, that means they're not binding. So I did that on both sides. The one that will bind, which is okay, is this bottom one, as long as it goes through the power slot. I can still move it right here, but as you get tighter, that's gonna cinch up a little bit. So just a little pointer. Main fasteners are fully tightened down, and I can still move these wires, which is a fantastic thing. Both sides, just so you guys know I'm not lying here. And I got lucky. So the rear air control motor wire I put on the bottom underneath, which is perfect length to plug it in. So a little tip there. I don't know if you'll make it if you're on the top of all these wires. And I think we're good. So the bottom wire, like I said, that's actually nice and tight, which I like because you don't want power wires moving around very much. We are good. Let's get these wires connected. idle air motor, whatever this thing is called, doohickey, just like that. And then our throttle position sensor, bang. And now you can put your covers back on. And if you have the throttle, the fuel rail in the throttle body, here's a couple pointers for you. When it comes to reassembly, make sure you put a little engine oil on all the O-rings. There are 6 of them. 1 here, 1 here, and 2 on each injector. And just wiggle them in. They should slip in just fine. You don't want to force it. You don't want to tear those O-rings. And now you can slip the covers back on. Again, gently press it on, and you shouldn't have any binding. Make sure there's no wires are in the way. It should fit flush with no impeding issues. If there's something caught, don't force it. Take it back apart. Check for a wire interference. While your throttle body's out, check your connections. Look at that. That is a problem, my friends. Need to fix that. Oh, here's another tip. See this zip tie? So I zip tie my caps on because if you should accidentally have backfire, it'll blow those off. And then your idle will be abnormally high. So if your idle is strangely high one day, it's probably because one of these caps came off. So I'm wondering if this is going to change my tune a little bit since that was cracked. So I'll replace those. I am all good to go, but one last step. You guys probably thought I forgot, but we need to talk about EMI. So anytime you have you're running anything with electricity, you're probably generating some kind of electromagnetic field, and more than likely they're on power lines. And you've probably seen these little doohickeys that go on your chargers for your laptops, etc. That's exactly what this is for. So while it's out of the car, go ahead and get yourself some on Amazon. Links are below. But I attach them to all things that have power on them. So distributor, especially, because that rotor creates a magnetic field and it can travel up the wires and wreak some havoc. And both my communication cables to the power and to the communication to the handheld. And then I will probably also wait till I get this in the car, figure out where my fan wire runs, and attach one to the fan wire after it's in the car. And hell, I might as well put one on the O2 sensor too, because that's a pretty big cable, and maybe even the power cable somewhere along the line. So this set you can get on Amazon. It has like a whole bunch of different sizes. So moral of the story is, it won't hurt. So put it on there. I'll talk more about EMI when I get this in the car. Oh yes, you guys know I love looking at my engine, and we're all hooked up. I even added a ferrite bead right there on the main power line. And speaking of power lines, you want to avoid at all costs your spark plug wires, anything near the distributor, and especially your coil hot wire and power wires, because they will pulse and make that annoying EMI sound wave or wave up the line. And then I found a great spot for the junction for the fuse box right there. Worked out perfectly. If you do have to cross power lines, do it at 90 degrees. Do not do it in parallel, because that just transmits whatever frequencies or waves are on that line, and will just wreak havoc on your computer. So here we go. Now I get the joy of setting up the new handheld, putting all my old inputs in, and we'll do a test fire. It better work. All right, here we go. So pointer, every time you put a new entry in your handheld, hit enter so it sends it to the computer. And then when you key off, go back to your dashboard. So we have all your data. So when you key off, that actually sets everything in the memory, and you'll know when that is, when that field goes away. Like that field, sorry. So yeah, let's go. I'm gonna key back on. Wait for that squirt. It's fired up. Yes, I'm a little nervous. Heyo. Oh, I forgot to mention, I also added a couple turns of the screw on the throttle blades, because remember we found that that cap that was cracked. So just in case, we'll see. Woo! Almost. That's weird. It's working now. That was so weird. Maybe it has some learning to do. I don't know. All right, next step here is we got to set the IAC. So maybe that has something to do with that rough start. But in order to do that, you got to warm up the engine. And we'll do that next episode, because I want a dedicated video for that, because I honestly forgot how to do it. So I have to look it up, my old video, and so the next video will be the new one. So thanks for hanging out. I hope you guys learned a lot, and you guys know the drill. Until next time, building fast, driving faster. See ya.